The house was quiet, but it wasn't peace that filled the silence. It was the kind of stillness that comes just before something important breaks through. Nina could feel it before she even heard the footsteps, like a shift in the air, a whisper of anticipation. Her son Liam, usually full of wit and noise, entered the room with a weight in his eyes that made her heart pause. Something was coming, something he needed to say, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to hear it. Nina held a mug of coffee close to her chest, the warmth of it spreading through her fingers. It was rare to find these kinds of moments. Quiet, unhurried, her mind not already halfway into the list of things to do. She took a long sip and let her shoulders sink a little. It was peaceful. Then came the sound. Footsteps, light and slow, like someone wasn't sure they wanted to be heard. She turned slightly, just as Liam appeared in the doorway. His dark hoodie hung loose on his lean frame, hands tucked deep into his pockets. His hair was a mess of curls, like he hadn't bothered to comb it after getting out of bed, if he'd even slept. At 19, Liam was usually sharp with a comeback, always ready with some clever twist of words. But now, his silence seemed to carry weight. Something heavy, she thought. "Hey," he said, voice low as he slid into a chair at the kitchen table. Nina set her mug down slowly, her gut already stirring. Something about him was different today. "Hey, sweetheart," she said softly. "Everything okay?" He nodded once but didn't look up. His gaze stayed locked on the wood grain of the table, as if it was holding answers. "Can we talk?" he said after a pause. Just 4 words, but they came with a gravity that pulled at her chest. Her mind spun with possibilities. Was something wrong at school? Was he sick? Had someone hurt him? She nodded and moved to sit across from him, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Of course. Talk to me. What's going on?" He took a breath, long and shaky, still avoiding her eyes. "I've been thinking about something," he said slowly, "and I didn't know who else I could talk to about it." Then he lifted his head and looked at her. Really looked. And what she saw there, uncertainty, fear, and trust, tightened her throat. "You've always been the one I could count on," he said. Her heart broke a little, then stitched itself together again. "And you still can," she replied gently. "There's this girl," he said after a pause. "Her name's Lila." Nina leaned in slightly, her hands resting on the table. "She's amazing," Liam went on. And even though his cheeks went a little pink, he kept talking. "She's smart and kind, funny, like she sees things in people. And I really like her, but I've never been in anything real before, like serious, and I'm scared I'm going to mess it up." Nina let out the breath she'd been holding. It wasn't anything terrible, at least not the kind of terrible she'd been imagining. But the way he said it, the way he sat across from her like the ground under him wasn't steady, made her realize it wasn't a small thing either. "I want to do it right," he added, his voice low. "But I feel like everyone else knows how this works, and I'm still trying to figure out what I'm even doing." She reached across the table and placed her hand over his, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "There's no map," she said. "No rule book. You've just got your heart and how you treat the person you care about." His fingers curled slightly under hers, but he didn't speak right away. "What if I'm not ready?" he finally asked. "Or worse, what if I think I'm ready and I just mess it all up?" "Then you learn," Nina said. "You make mistakes, but you grow. That's how it works." He went quiet for a moment, then said in a voice that wavered just a little, "Can I ask you something personal?" She raised an eyebrow, curious. "Of course," You don't have to answer if it's weird. It's okay. Go ahead. He hesitated, then spoke quickly, as if he didn't get the words out fast. They might stay stuck inside him forever. How did you know, when it was right to be with someone that way? Intimately. Nina blinked, caught off guard by the question. It wasn't what she expected, but his eyes were steady on hers, honest and searching. There was nothing crude or disrespectful about the way he asked. He wasn't trying to be inappropriate. He was trying to understand something important. She took a breath, letting the memory settle before speaking. It was when I felt safe, she said. When I knew there was no pressure, that it was mutual, and that I could say no at any moment and still be loved and respected. Liam nodded slowly, like her words were a key turning something inside him. That makes sense, he murmured. I think I want to wait. Not forever, but until I know it's the right time. But I also don't want to be clueless when it happens. I want to do it right. That's not being clueless, she said, her voice soft. That's being wise. He looked up again, and this time the tension in his shoulders had eased just a little, like something that had been locked up inside him had been given room to breathe. From then on, something between them shifted. Liam started coming home more often from school. He'd show up for dinner, linger longer afterward, sometimes help her with the dishes, or ask about her day without being asked. It wasn't dramatic. It was gentle, real. He talked more, too, about his classes, about the future, about Lila. Her name came up often now. Her laugh, her love of old records, her habit of tapping her foot when she was thinking. One evening, just as the sun began to fade into a quiet violet sky, Nina was lighting a candle in the kitchen when she heard footsteps again. Liam leaned against the door frame, a half smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Got a minute? Always, she said. He said, We're going out Friday. Her face lit up. That's wonderful, she said. Are you nervous? He nodded, laughing a little. Yeah, kind of terrified, but also kind of ready. She walked over and cupped his face gently in her palm. You've grown so much, she said. You're not the same kid who left last fall. You're becoming someone really solid, thoughtful. Lila's lucky. He smiled a little crookedly. I get that from you, he said. Later, after he'd gone back to his room, Nina stood at the sink, letting the warm water run over her hands as she washed a few glasses. She found herself smiling. There was something unexpected and beautiful about this new stage, this place where they weren't just mother and son, but two people trying to navigate what it meant to care deeply, to ask honest questions, to really show up. That night, she sat on the porch with a glass of wine. The stars were just beginning to show. Liam came out with a blanket and settled beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. Can I ask you something else? He said. Of course. When it happened for you, the first real relationship, were you scared? She looked up at the stars, remembering the flutter of nerves and hope, and all the other things she hadn't had words for back then. Terrified, she said, but also alive. Love does that. It makes you feel everything more intensely. The joy, the fear, the hurt. Liam was quiet a moment, then nodded slowly. I think I want that, he said. Even the hard parts. I want to feel something real. Nina turned toward him, surprised by the quiet courage in his voice. That's brave, she said. He gave her a soft smile. I'm learning from the best. Friday came with all the nervous energy of a first date. Liam changed his shirt 3 times, fussed over his hair, and kept checking his phone. He finally settled on a navy button-down and jeans, freshly washed sneakers. He looked polished, but still like himself. You look great, Nina said from the hallway. You think? She'll like it, I think. She already does, she said. Just be yourself. That's more than enough. He stepped toward her, sudden emotion rising behind his eyes. Thanks for everything, he said. I didn't think I could have talks like this with you. I didn't expect it to feel so safe, but I don't know what I'd do without it now. She pulled him into a hug, her arms around him strong and sure. Go make a memory, she said, and be kind with her, and with yourself. She watched from the front window as he drove away. The quiet of the house afterward felt different. Not empty, but changed. Her son was no longer the little boy she'd tucked into bed each night, or even the teenager who'd slouched through the door with headphones on. He was stepping into something new, something real, and she felt it too. A shift in the air, a gentle widening of the world around them both. For a long time, Nina stood there, the glass cool beneath her fingertips, the night stretching out, beyond the window. She let herself feel the fullness of this moment, the ache of letting go, the pride of watching him grow, and the quiet certainty that, no matter what happened next, they'd always find their way back to each other. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this story or found something that resonated with you, please give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and consider subscribing so you don't miss what's next. Until next time, take care, be kind to yourself, and keep making memories. See you soon.